There's a reason the majority stay broke, and it has nothing to do with the economy, nothing to do with where they were born, nothing to do with luck, fate, or some mythical ceiling that keeps them small. The truth, the raw, unfiltered truth, is that most people stay broke because they are mentally conditioned to remain that way. From the moment they wake up to the moment their head hits the pillow, they are running on scripts they didn't write, beliefs they never questioned, habits they never examined, and excuses they've repeated so many times they now call them facts. They say they want wealth, but they think like victims. They say they want freedom, but they cling to comfort like a warm blanket. They say they want to change, but the moment growth gets uncomfortable, they retreat to the familiar hell they've decorated and learned to call normal. You want to know why most people stay broke? Because broke is easy. Broke is socially acceptable. Broke doesn't require you to be criticized. Broke doesn't demand late nights, early mornings, failure, risk, rejection, or reinvention. Broke doesn't ask you to stare your ego in the face and say, I'm not where I should be, and it's my fault. Wealth is responsibility, and most people, they don't want that weight, and they want someone to come save them. A boss, a government, a partner, a trend, but deep down they know no one is coming. Look at the greats, Carnegie, Edison, Oprah, Jobs. Not a single one of them was handed greatness. They were forged in silence, in seasons of obscurity, in rejection after rejection. Carnegie was a poor Scottish immigrant. Edison was called slow by his own teachers. Oprah was born into poverty. Jobs was abandoned at birth. These weren't just underdogs, they were impossibilities. But the difference? They didn't accept their conditions as permanent. That's the dividing line, the fork in the road. Most people inherit limitation and never question it. They make their surroundings their truth. They make their fears their ceiling. But wealth, true, lasting, internal and external wealth, begins the moment you say, this cycle ends with me. No more inherited excuses. No more generational fear. No more recycled poverty. It ends here. The mind is a soil, and most are planting weeds. Self-doubt, scarcity, not enough. Can't afford it? Maybe next year. Every thought is a seed. Every word, a fertilizer, and every action, a vote cast in the direction of your future. You stay broke when you don't guard your thoughts. You stay broke when you treat success like a lottery, not a formula. You stay broke when you keep waiting to feel ready, while time keeps cashing in the hours you'll never get back. Broke isn't just about money. It's a mindset, a disease of the will, a virus of the spirit. It's giving up your power to your past. It's believing your current reality is permanent. The wealthy? They see money as a tool, a byproduct of value, vision, and relentless execution. They don't chase dollars, they chase impact. They don't save every cent out of fear. They invest from a place of confidence. You want to break out of being broke? Then change your emotional relationship with money. Stop treating it like a source of stress and start treating it like a mirror, a reflection of how well you understand value. Money doesn't flow to need. It flows to clarity, to purpose, to those who understand that what you become is far more important than what you earn. But here's what you'll hear in the real world. Money is the root of all evil. Rich people are greedy. Success is for the lucky. Lieutenant, and lie again. These aren't truths. They're protective lies we tell ourselves to justify playing small. They're how the masses stay safe. Safe from trying, safe from failing, safe from being seen. But the people who rise, they get uncomfortable being average. They refuse to make excuses. They don't blame the system. They outgrow it. Here's a hard truth, and most people are addicted to struggle. It gives them identity. It gives them connection. It gives them something to talk about. If they didn't struggle, what else would they say? See, being broke gives you a story. But being wealthy, that gives you responsibility. Responsibility to rise and to lead, to give, to serve, and to build something greater than yourself. And that's terrifying to someone who's spent their whole life being a consumer, not a creator. You want to shift? Then you need to unlearn. You need to question everything they taught you. They taught you to trade hours for money. They taught you to avoid risk. They taught you to follow, not lead, to ask for permission, to wait for approval, to climb a ladder that leads to someone else's dream. But no one ever got rich climbing ladders, and they built their own floors. They stopped being employees of survival and became architects of legacy. And you can too, but not if you keep living on autopilot. Not if you keep sleeping in while your dreams die quietly. Not if you keep scrolling your potential into oblivion. You don't rise by accident, and you rise because you decide, because something in you, something buried beneath years of doubt, finally says, I am not like them. I will not die broke. You rise because your vision becomes louder than your fear, because your purpose becomes more urgent than your pain, because comfort becomes more suffocating than risk. That's the edge. That's the line in the sand where most will run. But the few, the very few, will charge. They won't wait to be chosen, and they will choose themselves. They'll wake up early. They'll master their mind. They'll fall in love with the grind most avoid. They'll build skills in silence and drop results in noise. They'll get hated. They'll get doubted. They'll be told to be realistic. And they'll keep going anyway. Because they know the road to wealth is paved with the bricks of self-mastery, and they're willing to lay every single one by hand. The world doesn't hand out wealth to the most talented. It rewards the most obsessed, the ones who keep showing up when the applause stops, the ones who are willing to outwork, outthink, and outlast anyone else in the room, the ones who stare at the mountain and say, watch me climb. Most people stay broke because they never go all in, and they dip their toe into success like it's a kiddie pool, half effort, half commitment, half belief. But life doesn't pay out to half-hearted players. It pays the one who bets everything on themselves. Think about it. What did Walt Disney have when he started? No money, no reputation, just drawings, imagination, and a stubborn refusal to quit. He was laughed at, rejected, went bankrupt, but his vision, unshakable. He built an empire out of pencil sketches and belief, because vision is more valuable than capital. Capital runs out, belief multiplies. You can lose your money and earn it back. But if you lose your belief, your conviction, you've already lost the war. You want to stop being broke? Then build belief like your life depends on it. Because it does. Burn the plan B, kill the backup route, step into the fire and make it work. Most people will tell you, be careful, don't get your hopes up. But listen to me. You better get your hopes up. You better raise your standards so high they scare people. You better start expecting miracles wrapped in effort. Because low expectations are poverty in disguise, a quiet resignation to mediocrity. And life bends to the bold, not the careful. But here's the part they never say out loud. The journey to wealth, it's lonely, not in the no friends way, but in the no one understands you way. Your hunger will make people uncomfortable. Your drive will offend their complacency. Your standards will reveal their laziness. They'll call you obsessed. Good. They'll say you've changed. Excellent. They'll say, you think you're better than us? No, you know you're better than your former self. That's the only comparison that matters. See, the average person is obsessed with entertainment. The wealthy are obsessed with education. The average seek validation. The wealthy seek growth. The average wake up to distractions. The wealthy wake up to a mission. You can't have both. You cannot be broke and expect abundance with a mindset trained by Netflix, scrolling, and excuses. You must choose. Are you a consumer or are you a creator? Because wealth is created, not wished for. It is forged in the crucible of consistency, not once a week, not when it feels good, every single day. That means reading when you're tired, studying when others are partying, investing when it's scary, risking when it's uncomfortable, and learning through the bruises of failure instead of hiding behind the blanket of safety. Do you know why most people never break through? Because they're waiting for motivation. Let me say this loud and clear. Motivation is a lie. It's a sugar high for your ambition. And it wears off the second life punches you in the face. What you need isn't motivation, it's discipline. Discipline is doing what you said you'd do, long after the mood has left. It's showing up for your dream even when no one claps. It's choosing progress over pleasure and mission over mood. Discipline doesn't ask how you feel. It tells you, get up. We have work to do. That's the difference. That's why most people stay broke. They wait for the right time. But the successful, they decide the time is now, and then they move. Thomas Edison didn't wait for the perfect moment to invent the light bulb. He failed over 1,000 times. But each failure wasn't a defeat. It was data. It was information, and it was the universe saying, not yet, but close. And that is the mindset of wealth. Failure is not final. It's foundational. Most people fail once and quit. The wealthy fail hundreds of times and just keep adjusting, and they don't retreat, they recalibrate, because adaptability is the secret weapon of the uncommon. You stay broke when you marry your identity to your past. You stay broke when your pride won't let you start small. You stay broke when your ego is louder than your hunger. But the wealthy, they'll flip burgers while building the dream. They'll start ugly, start broke, start late, but they start. And they stay at it until the world has no choice but to notice. And so what are you waiting for? Permission, approval, validation? You were not born to stay broke. You were born with the power to create. But power unused becomes poison. Potential unclaimed becomes pain. And let me be clear, there is no pain greater than the pain of a life half lived. There's a war being fought every day, not with bullets, not with bombs, but with beliefs. A war between the voice in your head telling you to stay small and the fire in your soul daring you to rise. Most people, they lose that war before they even open their eyes. They wake up and reach for their phone before they reach for their purpose. They feed their mind with noise before they feed it with focus. And every day they lose another battle and another inch of their potential. But here's what no one tells them. Every day is a vote. Every action you take, every decision you make, it's casting a ballot for the life you want or the life you'll regret. The people who rise, who conquer poverty, who escape the matrix, they don't do it by accident. They do it because they cast their vote for wealth, for power, for greatness, relentlessly. And that's what wealth demands, relentlessness. Not perfection, not genius, just a will so unshakable that no rejection, no delay, no failure can break it. You stay broke when you quit because it's hard. You stay broke when you give up because you feel alone. You stay broke when you listen to the doubters, the critics, the small-minded who gave up on their own dreams and now want to kill yours too. But remember this, the dream wasn't given to them, it was given to you. You were chosen, and not to fit in, but to break through, to build what no one else around you has ever built, to go where no one in your bloodline has gone, to turn poverty into prosperity, scarcity into legacy. And this isn't just about making money. This is about becoming the person who no longer accepts survival as a lifestyle. This is about awakening the version of you that has been buried under years of doubt, delay, and distraction. That version of you, it's still there, and it's angry. Angry at the way you've settled. Angry at the way you've silenced your ambition just to make others comfortable. Angry at the excuses, the waiting, the playing small. But anger, when harnessed, it becomes fuel. It becomes the match that ignites your mission. So ask yourself, what will it take to finally say enough? Enough of being broke? Enough of being average? Enough of watching others live the life you secretly want? Enough of calling fear wisdom? Enough of letting circumstances define your destiny? Because here's the truth. Your circumstances are not your sentence. They are your starting point. And the only thing that makes them permanent is your refusal to move. History is filled with people who started with less than you. People who were counted out, overlooked, underestimated, and still rose. Why? Because they decided they were done negotiating with mediocrity. They stopped explaining themselves. They stopped apologizing for wanting more. They stopped taking advice from people who had never built anything, and they went to work. Silent work, thankless work, ugly, unnoticed, exhausting work, until the results started speaking for them. That's the season you must embrace. The season of obscurity, where no one claps, where you build in the dark, where you sow seeds in faith. Because the harvest, that's coming, but only if you don't quit. Most people, they don't make it through that season. They get tired, they get discouraged, and they get distracted. But distraction is the new poverty. Scrolling is the new sedation. Comfort is the new prison. And every minute you give away to something that doesn't serve your vision, that's a deposit into someone else's dream, not yours. But the ones who escape, they guard their time like treasure. They protect their vision like a newborn. They say no to everything that doesn't align. Because wealth isn't built by doing more. It's built by doing what matters. Fewer distractions, fewer excuses, more focus, more fire, and that fire must come from within. because no one's going to hand you permission, no one's going to wake you up, and no one's going to drag you across the finish line. This is your mountain to climb, your mind to master, your purpose to awaken. And if you don't fight for it, if you don't decide right now that you are done being broke in mind, in spirit, and in bank account, then life will keep you exactly where you are, because life is fair. It doesn't give you what you want. It gives you what you earn, what you command, what you become worthy of. So stop waiting, or stop blaming, and stop scrolling. Start building. You weren't born to be broke. You weren't born to live paycheck to paycheck. You weren't born to watch the clock, hoping the weekend comes fast enough to numb you from a life that doesn't inspire you. You were born to build, to multiply, to create a life so aligned with your vision that even your past can't recognize you anymore. But none of that happens unless you face the truth. You are either building your dream or building someone else's. And most people, they spend 40 years trading their time to build someone else's empire, while their own ideas collect dust on the shelf of someday. Someday is a lie. Someday never comes. Someday is where potential goes to die. The wealthy don't operate in someday. They move with urgency. They act as if the clock is ticking, because it is. They value every second, every decision, every opportunity, not because they're afraid of death, but because they're obsessed with not wasting life. And here's the ultimate paradox. Most people think wealth is about money. But the truly wealthy were the ones who stay wealthy they know wealth is about time, about freedom, about having the power to choose. Money is just the tool. Time is the treasure. And broke people trade their time for money. Wealthy people trade their money to buy back their time. You stay broke when you chase the wrong God. You stay broke when you hustle for status instead of freedom. You stay broke when you can't distinguish between activity and impact. Real wealth doesn't come from being busy. It comes from being intentional, from saying no to the noise, from making choices aligned with the person you are becoming. But you can't become that person by chance. You have to design them, visualize them, and obsess over them. Every morning when you wake up, you need to look that version of yourself in the eyes and say, I'm coming for you, and I'm doing the work. I'm building the habits. I'm rewriting the code. And no matter how long it takes, I won't stop until I meet you face to face. Because most people don't fail because they're weak. They fail because they lack clarity. And without clarity, there is no conviction. And without conviction, there is no consistency. That's why they drift. That's why they stall, and that's why they quit. But when you lock onto a vision so vivid you can taste it, so sharp it keeps you up at night, that's when your brain stops negotiating. That's when excuses lose their power. That's when fear gets drowned out by fire. The truth is this: you were lied to, taught to obey, not to think, taught to survive, not to lead, taught to fit in, not to rise. But the moment you realize your thoughts are not laws, that you can rebuild your mind from the ground up, that's when the game changes. Most people are broke because they're mentally enslaved. Enslaved to stories, enslaved to trauma, enslaved to false beliefs passed down like a family heirloom. But this is where it ends, right now with you. You are the interruption, the pattern breaker, the one who stops the cycle and starts a new legacy. And it won't be easy, but that's the price of freedom. That's the toll you pay for walking a path most won't even look at. They'll mock you, they'll doubt you, they'll call you crazy, until the day they call you brilliant. So stay in the shadows, stack your skills, build your mind, sharpen your execution, and when it's time, strike loud, unapologetically, undeniably, because wealth doesn't whisper, it roars. You are not average, and you know it. That fire you've been suppressing, that quiet rage at your own mediocrity, it's not there to torture you. It's there to wake you up. Most people spend their entire lives avoiding that fire. They drown it with distraction, and they suffocate it with comfort, and they numb it with excuses. But the ones who win, the rare few who break through every wall, they walk straight into the flame. Because they know the fire doesn't destroy them, it forges them. And in that fire, they burn off everything that no longer serves their destiny, the old habits, the false beliefs, the inherited limits, the self-sabotage, the fear, the doubt, the guilt, the shame, until what's left is pure, unstoppable, untouchable. The kind of person who cannot go back to broke, because they've seen too much, learned too much, fought too hard, and built too deep. You think being broke is your reality? No, it's your test, a sacred invitation from life itself. Will you settle or will you rise? And if you rise, and if you take this pain, this pressure, this past, and forge it into purpose, then you don't just break the cycle. You become the revolution. You become the father who teaches his son wealth, the mother who teaches her daughter confidence, the one in the family who finally says, we don't live like this anymore, not on my watch, not in my bloodline. You become the person others point to and say, how did they do it? How did they go from nothing to that? And the answer is simple. You refuse to stay broke, not just in your bank account, but in your mindset, in your energy, in your actions, in your habits, in your expectations. You decided, you fully, finally, furiously, I'm done surviving, I'm here to dominate. So take this moment and burn it into your soul. The moment you stopped running, the moment you stopped playing small, the moment you stopped hiding behind your excuses, the moment you chose yourself, not because it was easy, but because it was necessary. The moment you stopped asking, why do most people stay broke? And instead declared, I will never be one of them.